You see, as Christians, we seek justice by acting justly, but we ought to pursue reconciliation. So you got to hear that. As Christians, we seek justice by acting justly, but we ought to pursue reconciliation. You see, the famous verse that we see in Micah chapter 6 and 8, where it says, it talks about to be kind and to do justice, to act justly. That whenever we're looking at the scriptures, when it talks about for us to seek justice, basically it begins to fall in line and says that you are to act justly. So our response, and we recognize that there's only one true and ultimate judge. God has placed us as ambassadors both to seek justice and to act by acting justly as individuals and corporately. How do we manifest this? You see, this idea of corporate empathy is important because it recognizes that at the end of the day, you can only be corporate if there's some type of reconciliation. Justice is primarily reserved for God, but reconciliation is the call of the Christian. Reconciliation is the call of the Christian. See, you can get justice without reconciliation, but you can't have true reconciliation without justice. You see, what I've seen on the internet and what I've seen in all the blogs is the people competing or fighting whether or not justice, and is it our response for justice or for or to the gospel or whatever it is that we've seen. And a lot of times we've pitted these two. You see, the Christian is to act both. That we are both to seek justice by acting justly. And we're also and ultimately to pursue reconciliation. You see, justice without reconciliation, you know what that's called? Hell. No, I'm serious. Justice will take place. Without reconciliation, it's hell. And that's why the goal that Jesus told us, it says this, the goal of our instruction is love from a pure heart, a sincere, a clear conscience. He tells us that he has reconciled the world to himself, and he has given us the ministry of reconciliation. You see, and so he's basically telling us that it's not enough just to get justice. But you see, we serve a God that desires to reconcile a people to himself that haven't been acting justly. Aren't you glad that God doesn't reserve reconciliation to only those who act justly? See, and I know that we begin to categorize sins, but this is what the whole Sermon on the Mount has been about. It says, do not murder, but I say to you, if you even think you've murdered them in your heart, guilty of murder in here. You see, the realities of what God is calling us is that God is a God that reconciles even the worst of sinners. The chief of sinners. And see, and the reality is that happens on both sides of the fence. That happens when we profile. That happens on either side of it.